Brother, we are here at Waikereru Sanctuary, and this here is a really unique and important forest system for our region. Why is that?
25 years ago, this was farmland. And right since the start, it's been really well looked after. There's been predator control and deer and goat control. And so there's actually a really wide range of species in what looks like in places just Kānuka forest. It's got amazing things underneath it, and they're just waiting to get going. They're waiting for a light gap to go through and become that next canopy.
Nestled in the heart of it is the 1769 garden.
That's right. Yep.
What is that? What's a 1769 garden? Because to me, that might just sound like some numbers.
Yep. So 1769 was when the Western world on the Endeavour met Te Ao Māori, and everything in this country changed. That garden has so many of those stories baked into the plant selection, the design of the garden. We've got some really critically endangered species here, but the cool thing is, because we're in the middle of 120 hectares of predator control and deer and goat control, we kind of don't have to worry about them being chewed on, which is why they're rare in other places.
I'm really interested in the role the 1769 garden plays in regenerating our landscapes. It seems like we've got a hub of many different unique species with lots of different jobs to play in resilience.
We actually call the garden the 1769 Seed Archive. And one of the things about conservation in New Zealand often is that it's protected. If something's protected, you can't touch it. And we're like, no, this is protected, but come, take cuttings, take seeds, because we've got to get this stuff out there. An example was our Euphorbia glauca. Graham Atkins found the last known one on the east coast at Te Puia Springs, took some cutting material, that's now gone in the wild. He's got some, we've got some here. We brought in a couple of little sprouts of it. Now we've got heaps of it. So now we can pot it on. I've got some at home. We're going to put it back in the sand dunes at Puawa. And that's East Coast genetics. That's really important. It's not just that the species is protected, but we've got some interesting genetics of our species here as well. Another example is one called Tucrium parvifolium. And there's 8 plants known on the East Coast. That's it.
Like individually 8?
Yeah, and they're all in one covenant. I've collected seed from those. We took it to the local nursery. They grew it on. Now all our Tucrium here are East Coast seed. And so because we're a long-term project, we hold that seed here. That genetic material can be held here. And we're more than happy to once we get numbers up a bit and get it seeding, to disperse that out.
You work with some of our amazing landowners, some incredible farmers, some incredible foresters. What do you think the appetite is in Tairāwhiti for concepts such as recollecting papatūānuku?
Well, I think the exciting thing is that it's really, you can see the change. So when I arrived, there was just a few people working in the environmental space, and now there's so many groups, you lose track of all the people working in that space. Some of my landowners I work with, I had one in particular who, the first contact I had with him was, how do I get rid of this covenant? I want to put my cattle in there and graze it. And on the most recent visit, this is kind of 8 years on, he's like, come and look at the riparian planting I've done. And that's not because of me, that's because of a whole change in the way people are seeing biodiversity on farms. And every little bit of that bush on farms helps in so many ways.
When I think about covenants, I think about Kiwi2, but I also think about ngā whenua rāhui. What role do they play in our tapestried approach to land management, and what role do they play in regenerating forests?
There's 2 things. There's the legal protection of a covenant, and that keeps it protected forever. But it's pretty obvious that a piece of paper doesn't protect something. So actually there's action that's needed as well. And so we support landowners to fence stock out of blocks. We work with landowners to deer fence blocks and goat-proof them as well. And some of the results we've seen from that are just incredible. Really diverse blocks of forest. with some rare species in them, and just a really flourishing understory. Like you walk into the block of bush and you just know it's healthy.
But if you're anything like me, I get real excited about that understory coming away because there's delicious piku in there. I get really excited about those sub-canopy species because there's often like those delicious fruit on them, those bush lollies. They're some of my favourite species.
And they also support all the birds and insects and skinks and geckos, and you've got some improvement by taking stock out. The next level of improvement is deer and goats, and then where and if you can, we support people to trap pests, but it's a really long game, that one. And then you're getting good bird nesting success, and also like rats and mice, and they eat the insects as well, which a lot of people forget about. Insects feed a whole lot of birds, and so it's just building up the whole system from the bottom by kind of layers of protection.
Let's talk deer. What impacts do deer actually have on forests?
They browse out a whole range of species that are your most palatable species. If you don't know they're not there, you don't notice. But when you go to a block that has deer removed or excluded, you've got this whole range of species. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that was meant to be in the bush.
What tools can people use to essentially stop deer and goats getting into a bush block or control them once they're in?
Not every block can be deer fenced. If it's got major waterways or slips or even really steep country, means that deer can jump in, but then they can't jump out. You have to follow it up with some ongoing monitoring to check that deer aren't getting in somewhere. If we get a deer fence up, we've done some really cool ones in the last year. The landowner will have a crack and get the deer numbers down really low, and then we tend to get in a contractor with thermal and deer dogs and all the gizmos just to check that block is absolutely clean of deer and goats, because getting that last one can be really, really tricky.
So what role do you think that landowners, such as farmers and foresters, play in recloaking Papatūānuku?
Often for landowners, the bits that we're protecting with a covenant are places that are hard for them to muster. We're paying for half a fence, we'll get more support if we can. So you end up with a farm that's easier to farm because you've fenced off the marginal bits they're marginal for farming, but they're great for biodiversity. So it's kind of this win-win. So in some ways it can be really easy to really improve some of those areas pretty quickly.
Who are some of your favourite species within the garden here, and what roles do they play in the landscape and building resilience?
One of the species we've got here is the heart-leaved kohuhu, or Pittosporum obcordatum. So it would have grown on our alluvial flats where it gets flooded quite often, and so it's one that would kind of grow in that mosaic where the flood wrecks a bit and then it comes up, and the flood wrecks another bit and it comes up, and that's just gone. So it's in like 45 places up and down the country, but the East Coast is a real stronghold for it. It seeds prolifically, so we can distribute seed as much as we want.
And its job, this heart-shaped kohuhu, its job is to repair landscapes after floods?
Yeah, it certainly helps with that, yeah.
That seems like just the tool we need post-cyclone here at Tairāwhiti.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was to ask you what thinking like a forest meant to you, what would you say?
I think it's just an understanding that these are complex systems that can be really beautiful spaces with great benefit to us in so many ways. They give us oxygen, that's useful. They provide habitat for so many native species, and they keep our water clean, they keep our hills together. It's just endless. Like, they provide food for us. Forests are amazing.
Malcolm, I am blown away by the potential of places like this, of gardens, of seed banks, and the roles that they play in helping us regenerate our landscapes. They seem to be places where we can hold species safe that are underrepresented in our landscapes, places where we can help people learn about these species, but also you've given us a whole bunch of tools that we can go and implement in our forest fragments to help bring our forest back to a state of abundance. So thank you very much for our yarn today, fella. Really appreciate the work you do in Tairāwhiti, supporting our landowners to bring back our forests.
Cheers, my pleasure. Good to have you here.